Alright. It's come to my attention that I haven't been doing dramatic readings in a long time. And now I'm going to do one. It's called I Hate You, and it's based off Super Mario World. This isn't one of those haunted game stories. At no point are you going to hear me claim something in the game spoke to me, reacted to my words, or forced me to punch myself repeatedly in the face. No, this isn't about a haunted game, or a game doing something impossible, or even something it shouldn't have. This game isn't about a glitch, or a hidden satanic message, or at no time did I phone Nintendo headquarters only to have my questions answered with hushed whispers or anguished screams. This story is about a game feature I don't think anyone else has unlocked. That's it. No ghosts, no conspiracies, just a secret we're all supposed to find but never do. Something that changed an entire generation's childhood and the very essence of a multi-million or billion-dollar franchise. This is about what I assume to be a previously undiscovered alternate ending to Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. In 1996, I received my first computer as a birthday gift. I'd been on the internet before, had used computers before, but it had always been in school or at a friend's house. This was mine. All mine. I explored the crude, prehistoric web of all time with great interest. I've done all sorts of pornography and even printed it out, which made absolutely no sense. I also pirated media like a madman. Music, games, everything. This is when I first discovered Mario World. I never had a Super Nintendo as a little kid, so it was new to me. I downloaded tons of games along with the SNES emulator, but Mario World is my favorite. For over a decade, the same Mario World ROM was my time-wasting hobby. I played it over and over, beating the game faster and faster until I began to lazily explore the world with no particular purpose. Game Genie codes helped immensely. I could turn off the timer and relive a particularly entertaining map for an hour as I waited for a download or a number of boring events. It was in this manner that I must have beaten and rebeaten the game thousands upon thousands of times. There was a comfort in the obsessive, compulsive behavior of this routine, but it was all shattered when I saw the Blind Boo. The Blind Boo, as I referred to it, was hovering over the exits from the haunted sunken ship level later on in the game. I call it blind because it actually has no visible eyes. It was like someone had done a lazy ROM hack, but I knew from years of upon experience this was a normal game. The Blind Boo just hung there over the exit pipe, blocking it. I turned my back on it, but it didn't chase me. How could it? It didn't even see me. Now I know something else of sorts. There was also a key and a keyhole misplaced above the exit. Keys and keyholes are such ways of ending a level in an alternate manner and discovering a secret area. Still, this didn't belong here, I knew it. For a moment I considered the fact that I had actually broken a ROM file from overuse. After taking this screenshot specifically to show you all Mario Bros fans out there, I picked up the key and opened the door, figuring the game would seize up and not have a restart. Instead, it opened up a new path in the map selection screen. A whirlpool next to Bowser's already creepy head cave thing. I pressed the right arrow and moved into the whirling drain. Oh God, no! This didn't strike me as odd because if you're familiar with the Mario World games, there's an area called Star Rod that you may note has similar names. Just stuff like tubular and awesome and all manner of dumb words and phrases. Most areas were called Vanilla Forest 1 and Donut Mountain 3. And all of that, but there were maps with odd names like that. What did concern me was Mario's expression. Surprise, shock, fear. I entered the map. Oddly enough, the whirlpool in the middle of the lake began with the standard castle entry animation. I could tell it was underwater because of the bubbles that periodically emerged from the sprite's mouth and floated to the top of the screen. Inside the castle, it started to look more and more like I was experiencing a glitch. There was no room to jump, no room to anything but run left and right. I must have gone right for 10 to 20 minutes just holding the B button and running along at full speed. After a while, I ran into one or two blind boos in the darkness above, then 3 or 4, and the screen was full of them. They just kind of hung around doing nothing. They wouldn't chase me if I turned my back, as with the previous blind boo. If I made any noise, like Mario's jump sound, they would sort of shudder a bit, like they heard the sound of Mario's movements, but couldn't do anything about it. Then something made me stop and turn the other way. Now I was beyond a shadow of a doubt the map was specifically designed to screw with the player. Not because the giant bleeding Bill was hemorrhaging profusely from its face, but because it was inescapable. There was literally no way to avoid being killed by it, as you can see above. That is, unless you're like me and you have Game G cheats on hand. I switched on the code for permanent invincibility. Let the bleeding Bill chase me for a while when I was invincible, just to get a good look at the thing. I stopped, killed it with my invulnerable touch, only when I saw a message that hadn't been there when I passed before. I hate you! That kind of creeped me out. But on the other hand, it was kind of interesting because this was definitely a map that was supposed to exist. There was a plot element here, something undiscovered. What did it mean? Who hated me? King Koopa seemed the obvious answer. Or maybe just the ghosts. When you're in a haunted castle that way, you're found by a haunted ship, a bloody-looking hate message isn't so unbelievable. I saw it again when I approached some giant boos. I was thankful that the blind boos ended at this point, because the more I watched him shudder, the uneasier I felt. Almost empathetic toward them. The thankfulness ended when I turned my back on the giant boos and this happened. Giant boos with faces I hadn't seen before. They were always mad at being awakened, angry at invading the haunted houses across the Mario World Island. This was different, and they looked gleeful, demented. I could see right down their throats, which seemed odd given the lack of detail their mouths usually displayed. And yes, of course I'm going to address the message you saw in the picture. Why won't you die? I don't know why. Am I supposed to? Who's asking? I let the giant boos touch me, and they died like the bleeding bills, of which I encountered 2. Despite any attempt to scare the player, I knew that being invincible meant invincible no matter what they threw at me. After a while, down this strange claustrophobic corridor with no more eventful happenings, I came to a room with an exit pipe. Taking the pipe downward, I came out the other end and dropped in a room filled with water. The water makes sense as being a sunken castle, the whirlpool and all. I was rewarded for my troubles with a question mark block that released a mushroom for me. I could have easily done this with a cheat code, but the thought had escaped me as I faced all these new and strange sights. The first creature I encountered in the underwater portions of the castle were thwomps. Unless you've been living under a rock since the mid-80s, you know thwomps are stone-like square creatures that hang from the ceiling and fall whenever you come near. They try to crush you, essentially. Well, these thwomps, lined in a tight row, dropped repeatedly and random with no real trigger or any sense of logic. They would just wait or drop whenever they seemed to feel like it. It also looked like these thwomps had been very successful thwomps. More cartoony blood. This is pretty unusual for the Mario Bros. Franchise, which I hadn't recalled seeing blood at all. Now I had seen it used 3 times. The bloody bills, the messages, and those perpetual smashing, grinding thwomps were working their victims into pulp forever, into hampering effects of the water. I walked slowly under those things, making sure every single one touched me and died. There were almost 30 of them in a row. The sight of them mindlessly crushing over and over again just made me hate them with an unsettling intensity. What's weird is that the blood caused Mario to slide as if he were in an ice level. After walking through the gauntlet of depravity, I swam into a more open area that was filled with spikes in the floor and the ceiling. It was difficult to swim in this manner without touching the spikes, but since I was invincible, I didn't think of it. I avoided them more for the fun of it than the sense of being damaged. It stopped being fun really fast, though. Now I know what was going on. The bloody mess the thwomps are causing, it was other Marios, past Marios that tried to traverse through this level and failed. I had to admit it was an excellent touch, even if it was a bit ghoulish. Whoever designed the map actually broke the 4th wall and showed you the bloated, motionless abortions, the player's own careless treatment of Mario's tiny life. The bodies only floated straight up and down a bit, as if to show the effects of a light current. It was genius, and I couldn't believe I might be the first and only person to see this. I toyed with the idea of making more than one screenshot I just presented you, basically so all of you reading this could enjoy the secret map as much as I could, especially this weird little touch. But without swimming, kicking, or moving anyway, the dead Marios started to come at me like torpedoes. Their faces remained blank and blue and dead, but they moved with astonishing speed. They angled the position and worked all sorts of unique trajectories that left me almost nowhere to move. They continued coming at me and swarming and backing up to try again, and I just couldn't bring myself to let them touch me. I moved with more speed and skill than I ever expected, frantically trying to keep Mario free of the drowning victims that seemed dead set on rocketing straight towards him. When I finally reached the purple exit pipe you see above, there had to be 10 of those things right behind me, pitching, turning, and chasing me. I entered the pipe as fast as I could. Thankfully,
vehicle that had worked properly and had Mario out of that situation in a heartbeat. The corridor that follows empty, thankfully. It was just a blue underwater hallway of sorts that had nothing to avoid or kill. It was boring and predictable like the game had been all those years, which brought back a sense of safety. At the end of the hallway, I came to the standard pair of doors you would enter to face a final boss. Beside the doorway, a mushroom power-up. I wasn't gonna touch that. Going through the door was as you'd expect. The typical change of map views occurred, and Mario was standing on the ubiquitous bridge over boiling lava. Or had it been blood all along? And Mario walked out onto the bridge. However, there was no boss creature. Instead, Mario immediately looked to the side and froze. I couldn't control him anymore. He just stood there. Keep looking until you see it. I didn't see it at first, so I don't expect you to notice it right away. If you hadn't spotted the thing, look to the third window from the left. FYI, that's usually not there. Mario seemed to regain his composure and looked back and forth slowly, surveying the room. There was still no boss, I still couldn't control him, so I stopped trying and just watched. This went on and on for what seemed like forever. Nothing happened. Then a familiar face walked in from the right, dressed in green, tall, and angry. It was Luigi. Mario recoiled in horror. It's difficult to say without thinking how crazy it sounds, but Mario really reeled back with sort of terror that was uncharacteristic for such a peppy, happy-go-lucky mascot like him. Then Luigi spoke. It was connecting now. The messages scrawled on the walls. I hate you and why won't you die? Luigi. He was always been Mario's second banana, the player 2. The one who doesn't get the princess in these early games. No matter how identical he is to Mario in skill set and ability and tenaciousness and bravery, at the end of the day, the game is Super Mario Brothers, and he's just the brother. How he must have hated Mario. Who among us wouldn't? Think about it. No matter what happens, Mario will always get back. No matter how many corpses he leaves littering the battlefield, he's always there once more to leap and cheer and get all the adoration. And Koopa hadn't worked alone. I didn't know what that meant at first, if anything, but again, you have to think it through. How exactly does King Koopa constantly succeed in kidnapping the princess? From day one, from the original Mario Brothers onward, it had always been an inside job. Still unable to control the player, I watched Mario simply cower in fear as Luigi leapt high into the air, as high as he could in Mario 2, the illegitimate child of the franchise. He jumped on the pathetic, weeping Mario again and again and again. I was powerless to stop it. When he was done, he seemed to look at Mario's limp body with overwhelming rage. Then the bridge started to disappear. Soon Mario would be dead. As I looked on, I had a rational thought. Would this be permanent? With an instant, as Luigi turned to seemingly strike a victory pose, like he beat the level, Mario awkwardly got to his feet and took him by surprise. Fear and sadness and confusion given to anger, and Mario overpowered his brother with little effort. To this day, I'm still haunted by the final result of the wrathful reprisal. There was the map's title. None of this was a glitch. None of it was a mistake. It wasn't a developer getting back at Nintendo, and it wasn't a ghost haunting Nintendo cartridge. It was a planned, purposeful part of the Mario Brothers mythos. If you beat the same level X number of times, a secret part of the world opened, and you learned that from the Mario Brothers through Mario Land, Luigi had secretly been working against you, and was in fact facilitating the repeated abduction and abuse of the princess. But why? Money? Power? No. It was all there. Because he couldn't take not being in the spotlight, not being Mario himself. After Luigi died, and well and truly died, Mario just sat at the end of the bridge and wept. I was forced to watch this for minutes on end before the screen finally faded to black. I played the rest of the game through to see if anything changed. Nothing else odd happened, as one would expect, since this whole ordeal was just supposed to be part of the actual full story. I couldn't access the whirlpool again. I'd seen the events once, and that was all I was apparently allowed. It was back to the game as usual, the same exact game that played since the 90s. I probably continue to play for the rest of my days. Well, it was the same except for the final image.